things stand and kind of how we expect them to sort of play out as we go through the day. So I apologize. Typically would do this update mid-morning. The reason we're late on that is I was at the Create Foundation State of the Region event, was speaking as part of that today. So that has kind of slowed down my progression on this here. So I apologize for that, but we'll try to kind of work our way through everything that we can expect for the next 12 to 24 hours as far as things are concerned. I should be able to pop up our chat here, and we'll have that kind of up and down as we go through to try to answer as many of those questions as I can. I'm going to pop it up right here at the beginning. Looks like I don't have it over there where I can, so I'm going to have to do it manually behind the scenes here. Most of what I have is typically set up for when I'm at home doing this, so it's set up a very specific way because of that. But let's see here. That would be the chat. I have the reports turned on there at this time, and as I add in kind of our lightning counter and those reports, again, not a whole lot of significance as of this point here. Our atmosphere is somewhat stabilized. That will change as we go through the day. I'm going to check a couple of things here because I have to get my situational awareness up where it needs to go. I'm going to start in Alcorn County. We've had some of these storms. What I'm looking for from my point here, again, that dew point 57 there, that's still pretty dry. I'm going to compare that to Tupelo. Again, rain falling there. Obviously not dry, but it's a lower amount of instability. 66 dew point there in Tupelo. Winds out of the north, our Mitchell Cunningham Bowling Skycam. We have some rain cool there that's moved through Tupelo. One of those signs that the threat is a little greater to the south. I'm going to check down for Houston. I think we still might be pretty close to that boundary there as well. Yeah, coming in 66, looking over Houston, some low clouds. Those on the horizon there near that boundary that eventually will activate with more thunderstorms there. Let's slide south to, I think, West Point. Actually, this one might be Starkville now that I think about that. Yeah, we're in Starkville there. See how we're southeast? That measure of moisture too high. I want to double check that. That shows 77. That's a little higher than I would expect. Let's go to Caledonia out there. Check that one. This is me kind of poking and prodding the atmosphere. 71 there. Okay, that seems reasonable. Let's go out to Winona. And then I'm going to hit Rolling Fork and Greenville. So I'm going and I'm kind of looking at what these different reporting stations are. I don't know that I trust that. That's 61 there, north wind. I'm not sure about that data there in Winona. That does not seem correct. Let's head out and let's catch. That reporting station there, I think we picked that up from Greenwood, might be a little off on that. And Greenville is north winds with a dew point of 54? That can't be right. I'll give one more shot out here. Okay, dew point 57. Okay, now take it back. I'm wrong on that. Okay. Well, let's look at this, shall we? I think that has to do, again, with the rain-cooled air, but that's a lot more dry air up here than projections have had for some of those spots. National, go dew point there. I just as easily, I guess, could have seen this. So this is kind of where we're at. So let's go ahead and put on our front, or what essentially effectively is kind of like our cold front, is somewhere in here-ish, right? Somewhere around there. We showed Winona might be actually on the south side of that there, so I could have it go a little farther south there. But what we have is, again, some rain-cooled air that's kind of enhancing this back behind this. That boundary there is where storms will likely develop. And so everything that is ahead of that, I'll just kind of put the areas here in yellow. Everything that's ahead of that is in that prime zone for severe weather today, and right at the boundaries we have our greatest concerns. Now, we do expect this to probably slide southward a little bit more. We're going to probably have hail, maybe some rotating storms behind it, but the peak, most significant severe weather threat is probably going to be a little ahead of this boundary. Let's look at our risk areas here for today. So starting off again with our severe risk. Again, positioning on this is pretty close to what we talked about. Last night, we mentioned that there'd probably be some adjustment on the north side. That adjustment has happened as you look up here for locations in the northwest portion of the state. Let's kind of eliminate some folks, give some all clears before we get going up here. Senatobia, Olive Branch, Holly Springs, up there, Ashland, north of Ripley. We're not talking about any tornado risk for you today. That is not something we will see. That risk for all sorts of severe weather, all the different types of severe weather, gets greater really south of Tupelo And when we start looking down here, Kosciuszko, Philadelphia, Meridian, Forest, some of our Max South viewers down here, this is the zone where multiple rounds of rotating thunderstorms are possible. And that does, again, Kosciuszko, Macon, Louisville, you're in the area. And I would still say Columbus, we're too early to eliminate anybody at this point in time. This risk primarily for the tornado risk. As we bring it back to the northern part of the state and analyze specifically that, as you can see, this has been shaved southward because of that drier and cooler air. As we talked about last night, basically everything behind that boundary was going to have less fuel. And so while I drew it on as a blue line a moment ago because it is rain-cooled air, this is dry, or at least relatively dry near the surface. That means there's less fuel for it to go off of. As a result, we look very near and just ahead of that boundary. So while tornadoes not impossible, Tupelo, Bruce, or Grenada, the likelihood of tornadoes is diminishing as that boundary tries nudging a little bit farther south. I'm gonna check my phone here, make sure there's not something that I need to do here. I will say that getting from Joey Barnes there with the Columbus Municipal Schools, due to predicted severe weather in the area, the Columbus Municipal School District will dismiss the elementary schools and Hunt Intermediate at 1:30 p.m. Columbus Middle and High Schools will dismiss at 2:30 p.m. today. Appreciate Joey Barnes, the Public Information Officer down there, for relaying that. So we're going to have, and I cannot say that our closings on our website are going to be up to date on this here. So let's just be forthcoming about that. In many cases, we'll try to disseminate them as they come, and I'll try to get those updated as we can. But in Columbus, looks like early dismissal. The elementary schools, intermediate at 1:30, and then 2:30 dismissal for Columbus Middle and High Schools there. I'm sure I have more of those hiding in my email. I'll try to get through those in a minute here. But so the improvement, the change, or at least the understanding, now that we know where that boundary is, pretty well lined up there just south of Tupelo, everything ahead of that has that slightly greater chance to possibly see tornadoes. Looking at that strong tornado risk for today, or sometimes what we call the significant tornado risk, kind of analyze that. It's really similar spots that we were looking at yesterday. This has not changed much. So the first graphic here shows the likelihood of something occurring. In this area, we're going to have multiple rounds of rotating thunderstorms. And the fact you have multiple chances, I think I likened it to a basketball player taking a lot of shots. You take 100 shots in a game, some of those, unless you're really bad, some of those are going to go in. You're probably going to have a high score, but your efficiency might be low. So in that, this is where we're taking a lot of shots. The Mother Nature, or the storms, the rotating storms will take a lot of shots, but it's still possible to hit a three-pointer or hit a storm that it could be strong tornadoes far north as Monroe, Chickasaw, Clay, Webster, Montgomery counties, but certainly the overall odds for tornadoes are a little bit greater to the south. Looking at wind potential, less of an impact. I would not our highest impact. I would say the greatest likelihood of something damaging. Yeah, I mean maybe some spotty wind, but the greatest concern comes on the tornado threat related to this. And so, as you can definitely see there, we're going to have some wind threat, probably not any of those 75 or greater wind gusts. Hail, similar spots, especially back into Texas and Louisiana, stretching Kosciuszko, Columbus back to the south and west. We could have the greatest significant hail. So this is kind of an overview of how things stand. From my benefit, if you don't mind, I'm having to kind of play a little bit of catch up here. Had things really understood early this morning. Then we had that state of the region, and so now I'm getting back up and going on where everything is. So if you'll just bear with me a moment as I try to kind of analyze some of this and get my full perspective on this. What I'm looking for on this, and I might be able to see it looking forward a little bit better there, is clearing. So see the bits of gray that we have out there, those down there kind of east of Jackson. The gray is where we're starting to see a little bit of sunshine, and that's where when we see sunshine, that starts increasing the instability, the fuel for thunderstorms. So let's check. I'm going to check Amory. I might have double-clicked it there. Give me Amory, please. There we are. There we are. Third time's a charm. 79 high levels of moisture, southwest winds there at the Monroe County Airport, still in the zone in Amory where severe weather, tornadoes, the whole 9 yards possible out of the setup for today. Let's go. I think I can't remember if I saw Clay County. I want to double check this again here. This should pull from the Columbus Air Force Base, 71 dew points, so still plenty of moisture, 80-degree temperature. Looks a little brighter there, so there are some breaks that could enhance enhance things a little bit more as we go toward the afternoon. Okay, I think I'm up to date on current conditions. Now let's start talking a little bit of forecast stuff here, if you will, and we'll try to kind of walk through that. You'll have to bear with me as I sort of throw things in on the fly here to discuss what we're expecting. I need, let's go, see APE, and I'm gonna look and see if our HRRR and our strike models are pretty close on what they're depicting there. Yeah, I think this one should be the right one. Yes, okay. So at 1 p.m., it shows it somewhere, again, Florence, the Tupelo, back toward around Yazoo City. Let's make sure I'm gonna turn the camera off on this so we can go back and forth a little more easily. And let's go back here on our analysis, and we're going to look at the moisture on this. That dew point I was mentioning a moment ago, it's a measure of moisture based on the same scale as the temperature and the heating. Actually, let's start with temperatures here for a moment. Oh, that's slid eastward. Okay, so let's bring it to now. And let's query this for a moment. So again, what, 50s. So we have, again, some cool temperatures behind this. If you're out here sitting in the 50s, your tornado threat, it's not there. It's down here where we're, say, upper 70s, golden triangle. Aberdeen's still showing 77 on this, though, as I think we checked that camera a moment ago. Hold on. We check Aberdeen and check that temperature there. We'll see how well that is aligning with what we're seeing here. 79. So we're warmer than the projection that we're looking at a second ago there. And again, appreciate the North Mississippi Storm Chasers, all these cameras that we're looking at there. So we're actually running a little bit warmer than what this is depicting. Let's add a few more spots onto here. Tupelo, Boonville, Pontotoc, Oxford, Bruce, Water Valley, Grenada, Louisville, Kosciuszko, Philadelphia, Macon. Okay. Okay, that should be good. Chula, Greenwood, Yazoo City. Okay, let's go back to the moisture. That's pretty close. I'm gonna check Oktibbeha County one more time here. Check our camera in the western part of Oktibbeha County. Moisture, again, that's right. That reporting station's reading too high. That number where it says 77, that's too high. That's not accurate in comparison to the whole region. Kosciuszko would actually give me the Louisville reporting station. See there was 72. Okay, so that is close. Pull that camera back down there. So this is close. It's a little under. It's not a good thing. I want this to be over. So this is a little bit under. Let's see if it will let me move that so we can get that back to where it's not behind me. So, okay, so what does all of this mean and why does any of this matter? So that comes back to here where we show fuel, right? I can go back and forth between this for a moment where we see fuel. Note the line here we show close to Tupelo, Bruce, slanting back here south of Grenada and to Yazoo City. I want to double check that. I think the model's close-ish. This part here we're looking at shows a little more fuel there, Yazoo City, than what that's indicating. Let's pull up Rolling Fork. .73 dew point there. Again, south wind. Okay, so where that is there, so it's possible, this is probably underdoing it. So I'd say across the board, our dew points here a little bit underdone. The overall positioning is close. The model might be just slightly farther north and west, but I think this is close-ish. I think this probably, though, should be a little farther north there, closer to Yazoo City. Let's see how that plays out. This is our HRRR model, the one we've talked a lot about, a couple of our different projections today. You see it has the fuel continue to shift southeastward, and by 4 to 5 o'clock, not a ton of storms have developed on this. I think it's delaying the onset of storms too much, at least in my opinion here. Again, showing those from Canton back to Kosciuszko, Eupora. I'm going to pull up your comments again here in a minute, but let's go ahead and bring it full so everyone can see this a little bit closer. We'll again try to answer some of those. Weather call, I hit the wrong button on that, but before we move on, make sure you have a way to find out if you're in danger. Weather call should be that way. It comes with a cost. Snap a picture of this. If you know somebody that won't listen to you to get the shelter, maybe they'll listen to a phone call coming from me. It'll call you for tornado warnings, call you back if there are tornadoes confirmed. Severe thunderstorm warnings, high end, you have to tweak it to make it to where it does low end severe thunderstorm warnings, but major flooding and ultimately the tornado warning part of that is what we're most concerned with here. So back here in the Room to Room Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon. I spent the last few minutes here figuring out what exactly is going on. Now let's talk about something that hopefully is more useful to you. So the fuel on these storms, again, is going to be plentiful, and where storms form, they're going to be strong to severe. On that, I'm really interested to see now what the latest HRRR shows, because I didn't see a lot of storms eating against that. I need HR. Let's go with the DMA latest HRRR. Yeah, we can do this one. No, we don't want that one. Give me a moment. Okay, I'm gonna just throw in this one here. And I'll have to edit a few things on it, but that's okay. Let's total cloud cover, make sure that this is latest. So this version should be, hot off the presses. I don't think anybody's seen this one yet. As this is kind of, as this comes in, you're gonna get to see it live with me here, and we'll make some discussions. I would say while I'm fixing this last part of this graphic, that again, when we go do the overview here in a minute, there are some locations that we can eliminate from this threat. The far northern portion of Mississippi would be some of those spots there where I think we definitely can. Let's make this, I only needed to go the next, say 14 hours. Oops. See, and that's in the wrong spot, I hit that button. Okay. So now let's look at this versus where things are right now. So this is where the model says we should be at this exact moment. Let's see the reality of where we are. Go back over to radar. I'm going to do the mosaic radar for a moment. Let's clear all that stuff off. Okay, so oh, that has a view in it. Let's get rid of that. Okay, so again, most of the storms stronger out there. What I want to see is south here. Some of these storms down south of Forest and Brookhaven, the models have that. As some, not as heavy. Okay, so we're at least somewhat well modeled at having that there, and it's pretty close on its positioning where it had that boundary. Okay, so I think we can say this is fair. Let's see how, again, these storms are heavier on there than the reality of the situation, but we don't expect the model to be perfect, just expect it to be close. So those storms, again, not a ton of development. This, again, showing right there is that kind of, get it back. So 2 to 3 o'clock. Storms pretty close. I think that's a pretty decent idea on where it's kind of developed in some of those very near that boundary and then kind of working their way eastward. It doesn't take a lot, but I think with the fact we have some breaks in the clouds there, I think that this is reasonable, and that would be one that we depict there closer to Starkville and Columbus that would definitely have some rotation with it if that's how this plays out. Advance that forward. Yeah, see, I don't know that goes full on. That should attach to the boundary there, but that looks like it does weaken a bit. It doesn't become a real big and bad one. But again, 3:30 earlier than we would have said at 5 and 6 o'clock yesterday. These storms down here, again, south of Kosciuszko, getting stronger, 5:36. These would be rotating storms there. I think that there's a little bit of smoothing on this particular one I grabbed in here. No, apparently there is not. Apparently it was right to begin with. Okay. Yeah, that's a pretty rough one down south there. I'm missing cities on here. So if you'll give me a minute, I'm going to break this so that I can make sure that I have the right stuff on here. So give me a moment to go ahead and do that because there's something specifically I want to see on this. UPDATE. Discard, and this should be the right one of these. Abort. And here we are. Okay. There we go. This is exactly what I was looking for, and I can delete out the front when we need to. Okay. So we're picking this up 3:30 again. The front and where this at is critical, but the blue line, I think the blue line, we get the point at this point here. Storms are going to be forming along and near that line. So it's this batch here down close to Ridgeland, Flora, Carthage there in Philadelphia. That is the batch that where I think we're going to have, and then again, extending there into Alabama and back south of that as well. This is where we have lots of these rotating thunderstorms develop. When I show you this, should be on the same view here, and let's pull up the risk area for today. The reason this is the zone where we have the most significant risk is because of the opportunity. This is number of reports. We always put that right here. I don't know if anybody ever reads it. I try to say it. But the greatest number of reports in this zone here because there's more opportunity to see rotating thunderstorms there. Coming back over to the rainfall mode, you'll notice that those are the spots where, again, we just have tons and tons of those. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-ish at 6:30 that are rotating, trying to produce tornadoes. And they do tend to go over the same spots and kind of regenerate some more as we head towards, say, 8 to 9 o'clock. So this is where, again, the highest confidence for significant, damaging, rotating, severe thunderstorms that could extend past midnight tonight for central Mississippi in particular. Now the question becomes, how far north? We can say with pretty good clarity and understanding and feeling that for our friends that are down here in Philadelphia, Forest, Meridian, Canton, Madison, Jackson, Vicksburg, Kosciuszko, and Macon on the north side there's going to be a zone where we have multiple rounds of rotating storms, and maybe we get through multiple rounds of rotating thunderstorms and have 0 tornadoes. That would be the best case scenario. I wouldn't say that that's something I feel 100% confident on, though. So how far north? That's what we're now trying to decide and look at here in the Room-to-Room Weather Center. So let's look at a different version of our futurecast here for a moment. It's going to kind of have that sort of decorative look behind me maybe another time or two. Okay, so this is a different projection here. Again, picking it up same time there at 3:30. Notice this one has a few thunderstorms farther north. And one thing that maybe catches my attention just as much on this here is the fact that I have some breaks in the clouds there. So I'm going to stop this at 4 p.m. for a moment. And if you see, I think I got it. Yeah. So yeah, obviously we have the storms right there. 1, 2, 3 that have some rotation with them. Columbus back to south of Starkville, closer to Kosciuszko. And there has been this zone that over the last 24 hours here, you know, when you're starting to talk about south here, Kosciuszko in particular, there's kind of been this zone near Kosciuszko where almost all of our projections have had these rotating thunderstorms. Now, this is a little earlier than some of them had it last night, but they've pretty consistently had them in some of these spots. So I said a moment ago, the question is how far north, right? Where's your cutoff? I would still say, based on what we're looking at here, if we're talking strong tornadoes, those are most likely kind of south of this line. So down here is where we're most likely to see strong tornadoes if we're going to end up seeing it. Columbus, you're in that. Eupora, you're near that to in it. Chula, Kosciuszko, obviously Louisville, Macon, perhaps Aberdeen more than Amory. Farther south, again, don't want to eliminate anybody on this one on right at the line here, but this is the most likely zone for strong tornadoes. And I would say at this point here, there are some notably sized cities that we need to say if you're out here in Tupelo or Water Valley or Clarksdale or Oxford or Boonville. Again, while severe weather and tornadoes are not impossible for you, and it's still possible we could see one, the strong tornado threat is going to be predominantly to your south. Same thing Cleveland, same thing Greenville. Grenada, you're closer there and we're watching. Bruce, you're closer, we're watching. And obviously Amory, you're close and we are watching for you as well. But I would say the folks in yellow here are more likely more limited tornado threat. So I might as well just put the word limited, as if you could read through all the other stuff that's on top of that there. But anyway, this is the peak threat where we still think that's a lot of stuff there. I don't know if you can read through any of that, but this is where your strong tornado threat is still the most significant based on this, based on all our projections. I would love to trim this down farther. I can make some arguments to do it, but I think it's still too early in the day, especially based on what we were looking at with temperatures and moisture a little bit ago on here. So let's clear off all that mess. And so take a look at how this goes forward beyond that point in time. So let's see here. That shows, again, you can see some of the spots there, some of the same spots. Let me get the clicker over here for a moment. Okay, so this particular projection, again, you had another one of those, that one there. We'll go look at rotation tracks in a minute, but that was another one that kind of went there near Louisville, back out here toward Pickens County. That 5 to 6 o'clock time period where it has it. Clearly, you don't have to go that far south before it's just a much more significant situation down here closer to the I-20 corridor there. Still some of these storms up here, Starkville, but I think by 8 to 9 o'clock, that threat is solidly to the south. So if we're going to see it, again, timing, again, and one of the next questions I know that folks are going to naturally ask. Let me see if I widen this just a little bit there. I went way too wide now. What, can we get someplace in the middle here maybe? I want that shot. There we go. Okay, so let's talk some timing here. And I need to clear everything off, I think, to have the best chance to do that. Go analysis. I should be able to risk. There we go. That's clean. Okay. So let's talk some timing. Okay. Maybe not 100%. Maybe I'm a little too early on this here, a little too aggressive. And we'll get the size of this just right over here. I'm going to zoom this in a little bit more. But I would say in the northern portion of the state, it's probably a little too aggressive on the wording there, but I would keep the same spots. I think if you're up here, northern Tishomingo County, Oxford, North Water Valley there, back toward Greenville, I would say limited. It's not unreasonable that we're past the tornado threat for you today. Now let's talk about the next zone here. What's a good color for this? Use brown, I guess. Okay, let's say I know, again, out here in Louisiana, I don't want to imply too much specificity there. So if we're talking timing, this is mainly done, I would say, now to God, if we're going to see it, I want to put a 3 on here. But I'm going to put a 4. So if we're going to see it for you, that's the time frame, because what we're watching is we're watching that fuel recede southward. So now the next zone here, let's say boy, and I'm going to make this I don't know if they'll let me do a dashed line back there. I don't want to imply too much specificity once you get back out of here. This is not an area we cover. For this point here, I would say, 3 p.m. to, 3 p.m. I probably need to check a little bit more, but I'd say the onset 3 p.m. and then down south. I know this is a cop out. So starting time, we'll say, I mean, listen, it could be 3 or 4 o'clock there as well. I'm just going to say 3 p to late. So I think this is kind of a good beginning point on sort of how some of my expectations with this today. And again, reserve the right to change things a little bit, but hopefully kind of gives you an idea on timing. Tried to make it a little bit bigger there. Ignore out here in Louisiana and ignore out in Alabama. I would say for our counties there in Alabama, I think this is reasonable. The thing I got to figure out is, how late on this golden triangle threat does this extend? Because this is going to gradually threat end from north to south. Now, let's be clear here. If you're up in this zone, there's still going to be thunderstorms. Still could have some with rotation. But if we're talking strong tornadoes, this is the zones that we're looking at for that, the southern portion of the area progressing into this evening and into the overnight hours. So hopefully this is somewhat helpful. I have not been watching the chat very closely, and I can't actually move it from here, so I'm going to have to come back over here to pop up the chat manually. So hopefully this is useful information. We can look at storm rotation. We can look at a few other things there. Is Alabama a big risk for tornadoes or a flood? My weather app says a flood warning there in Northport. Yeah, I do think that there's a pretty good chance that you'll see some rotating thunderstorms pretty close to you. And I'd say same thing. Hatley, we're watching the next few hours for you. South Monroe County, a much better chance that is for you. But some of the spots we're going to have to watch very closely are going to be down around Columbus and Louisville and Kosciuszko and Winona and Macon. And then south of that, where that chance looks to be the greatest. So Chrissy, hopefully mentioning Winona, that clarifies that a little bit here. I'm going to pop onto here, and maybe this is going to start to be too much stuff, but I'll try it nonetheless. Let's put on our risk areas. Yeah, so that's too much stuff. You can't read that. So I'm going to stick with this here for a moment. Our significant tornado threat. And again, there are spots here that are not included in this threat. As you can see, the risk up here, I mean, that's pretty close to the line we drew on a second ago there. But I'd say your significant tornado risk will recede southward as we go through the day, into the afternoon, and into the evening time period there. I'll go ahead and give Maggie a thumbs up. She's about to take a nap as we are kind of rationing sleep and energy with what we're doing here today. So anyway, that's generally what we're looking at. We can look at, I could show you 10 million things, and we're now at that time frame where I get multiple runs of models an hour. So I don't know that that's always necessarily helpful there. For someone who was asking, Tracy McCollum, I'm interested to see what they were asking. We do cover locations down here towards central Mississippi. If we have something big in Jackson and we don't have something big a little closer, we might conceivably cover that there. But mostly our coverage area is the northern portion of the state. I can, I guess, kind of pop it up on the graphic we had here. You can kind of see our coverage area. We do also cover a few other counties outside of this. So we've added for our Mac South viewers. And so that would also include down here closer to, are we going to add them? There we go. Down towards central Mississippi. So we do have a few down there that we have added to the mix because of this. So we'll be covering, again, farther south to include some of those as well. So stay tuned on that. Let's see here. According to our Ethan Foster, University of Alabama is suspending classes at 2:30 today. Appreciate that, Ethan. If you give me a moment, I will double check kind of my feed of people behind the scenes to see if there are other early dismissals and things like that that have come in that I can clarify. I don't see a whole lot of those at this point here. I'm gonna double check that just to make sure. I'm gonna make sure I get all my spam in here because sometimes that happens. Not a lot of others out there. Okay, perfect. That's good. Let's go back again to all inboxes. Okay. There's a concert tonight happening in Tupelo at the arena. Is it safe to go? It starts, I think it actually starts at 6. Sisters coming up from the Jackson area. Your issue there, Kaylee, is more about your sister coming up from the Jackson area than the concert in Tupelo. I do expect that we are going to have thunderstorms. I do expect that some of those are going to be strong thunderstorms up here in the northern part of the state, but I also expect that the peak severe weather threat is going to be to the south. So by concert time in Tupelo, I think most of our projections have things clearing out a bit more. So, obviously kind of working in the right direction there. But I would say travel is probably the biggest issue, because when we start talking about any kind of, severe or active weather, our biggest concern is what happens, what ultimately happens if you get stuck in some of the more unsafe places. And so, for example, when we're kind of targeting safe places and unsafe places, cars, trucks, manufactured homes, large upper rooms, or upper rooms at all, rooms with windows, those are places that we want to avoid, and we want to be thinking about safe places. And this might be if we're driving along the road. Obviously, by the time we're driving along the road, we've made some decisions, probably not the wisest of those decisions there. As you can see, we want to, again, look, I think I have that set on why it's issue as opposed to safe place. I do. I'm going to have to change that. Set an alarm for 1 p.m. called Fix Safe Place on the BAM Stream Deck. Okay, we'll fix that.
Fix Safe Place on the BAM Stream Deck alarm is set for 1 p.m.
You understood me that time, Siri. We're on the same page. That's how we know it's a good day. We do have a shelter list, though, on our app. If you go into the app right now, you can actually, if you get out of the video, it won't completely get out of the video, make it smaller. You scroll down. There's a place where we have storm shelters around the region. It's not a perfect list, not a completely complete list, but it's one that we're working to update as new one comes in. I'm sure there's some that aren't on that list yet. We'll continue working on that as we get out of severe weather season here. But our complete list there, or as complete as we've got it, is at msliveweather.com, or appreciate Lee's there for sponsoring this list. These are public shelters, not private ones. And I reference that to say that there are some unsafe places we need to talk about here, and these could be strong tornadoes today. Now, I'm not saying everybody needs to get out of your manufactured home right now, but what I am saying is that by the most conservative statistic, you're 20 times more likely to die if you're hit by a tornado in a manufactured home than if you're in a site-built structure. And that's why we want to get to a safer location, like we talked about, one of those safer places. Tupelo Home Center, you see their logo there, one of our new partners here on Mississippi Live Weather. When you purchase a manufactured home from them, they're giving you a storm shelter as part of that purpose. The purpose of that being trying to take a 360-day-a-year structure and make it 365. But either way, you need to be getting to a sturdier structure if you're going to spend this afternoon in a manufactured home, especially south of US 82. There could definitely be some issues there for that. So just thinking some preparation here, and I sort of referenced this a minute ago, but we want to make sure that we have a way to find out if we're in danger. Weather call, code red, the Mississippi Live Weather app, NOAA Weather Radio, all ways in which we can build that armor to protect ourselves. Make sure you download our app. And in particular, make sure you get our apps there for a Roku, Apple TV, and Fire Stick. The reason you want those as well is so you can watch on a regular TV and keep your battery on your phone all charged up and it doesn't get so hot prior to storms getting to you. Because we're going to have updates as we go throughout the afternoon as storms begin to develop and get going. So make sure you have that app on all those different platforms. And I briefly popped it up earlier, and we definitely need to show it again. And that is Weather Call. Weather Call is something that if there is severe weather, that you need to have a way to find out if you're in danger. Weather call will let you know. It'll be my voice that comes in and says, hey, the National Weather Service issued a tornado warning for your location. It'll call you. That will help. And it'll let you know if there's tornadoes are confirmed. It'll call you back for severe storms, as well as major, what we call flash flood emergencies. So you can find out more information at msliveweather.com. Scan that QR code below. And for Weather Call subscribers there, a thing to note is you have to be specific, let know you want all severe thunderstorm warnings, because ultimately, I think the initial way it signs up, it's for significant, like high-end severe thunderstorm warnings. The idea being that if you get a weather call, you should know, man, this is about to get rough, as opposed to, oh, it's just another alert. Your weather call should be that, oh, this is about to get rough. So again, you can sign up for more information there. Let's bring up the chat. I'm gonna have to come back over here again to click the chat on the screen for you. So bring that back up. We'll try to answer a few questions here as well. Can you tell how to do the alarm for twisting, rotating storms heading toward your area? Okay, so in the Mississippi Live Weather app, let's see if it stays focused. It won't, because it's designed to lock focus there, but we'll try it nonetheless. Yeah, see, you can't read anything. So maybe about here-ish. Yeah, that looks good. So we pop the app up. There are some advertisements on it. So give me a second here. We appreciate our partners there for working with us here. But if you see in the upper left-hand corner, see if I get my finger right, that little kind of rounded top, pointy bottom thing, tap that, and then tap on your current location. You need to make sure that's on, so it's getting wherever you're at. Tap that, and then there's a pencil, edit that. If you think we send too many alerts, this is where you can go in there and turn off the one that says message from, what exactly is, I wanna make sure I get it right. Message from trained personnel. Leave all the rest of them on. If we're sending out one on weather or news or traffic, it's usually something pretty significant. But when we do newscast alerts, it's gonna be message from trained personnel. So if you wanna toggle that off, get it, that's fine. You know, certainly we think it's worthwhile, but get that. Right above that, there's one that says twisting storm approaching. We'll see if this will give an explanation there. So in the unreadable text there, it says, a storm capable of producing a tornado will be arriving at your specified location within 15 minutes. So that is where we're looking at rotation. And part of the way that works is that utilizes Mama Justice Doppler radar and some of kind of its behind the scenes goodies. So last time I'm gonna have this on screen here. If you wanna snap a picture of this, now's the time to do it. But then this is kind of our rough timing on where we're thinking here with some of these storms moving through. Again, I'd say 3 p.m. till evening, maybe 8 here in Columbus, 7, 8, 9 o'clock, somewhere in that zone. We'll be out of it in Aberdeen before that point there. And then obviously south later into the night. But again, strong tornadoes possible in this red zone here. Okay, let's clear this off. And let's look at radar. And we're going to look at the Memphis radar because we have more storms kind of back that direction there. Maybe one that we can kind of see. None that are very strong out there, which is good. But if we look at shear on here, let's make it a longer loop then. Let's make it a 3-hour loop. Okay, so you see where you have some of the red that shows up in there. Similar to our rotation tracks when we have severe weather, when there are sustained areas of rotation in here, and our Mama Justice Doppler radar working behind the scenes says, hey, let's do some analysis here, and there could be strong rotation, and there's a storm at the right spot, and it looks like it's multiple levels, it's gonna kick out an alert. And I don't usually show them on here, but we have the ability to kind of show it on here as well. Let's see, it does not look like there's any that have popped up, which is good because we didn't have any that was strong there, but it'll kind of look like an arrow sometimes. If you ever see arrows popping up in here, that's kind of what I'm looking at with this, where we have those areas of rotation, things like that. Luckily, we haven't had any of those show up, which is why no one's gotten those alerts today. But it will let you know, hey, there's a rotating thunderstorm coming toward you. And I'm not gonna say it's a pre-tornado warning, but it's more likely to be wrong than a tornado warning would be. So you're gonna have a higher false alarm ratio. So if you're looking for that earlier heads up, that twisting storm alert is one you wanna make sure that you have on. I see somebody saying they didn't have any of those My app has none of what you showed. Is that an Apple platform? No, it should be on all the apps. Apple and Android should be on there. Now make sure you're on the latest version, but even then it should be on there. To get to that, again, there's going to be a spot where you can put your location in. You want to look for wherever on the app it is you put your location in. I'm pretty sure it's in the upper right-hand corner. Again, let me stop that there. So it's upper right-hand corner there, and you'll tap that because that's for your location. And then once you have your current location, there's a little drop down. You hit a little arrow to the side and it drops it down, and then a pencil. I know it's like 3 steps. Apologize for that. And that's then where all of your alerts are. Both Android and iOS have that there. And so you'll have to dig down in it, and you can turn off and turn on different things. It works for all over the country. But that twisting storm, it says, I think, twisting storm alert or dangerous twisting storm. There's also a danger storm in there. You're going to have more false alarms with those, but those are kind of an earlier sort of heads up on that, if that makes sense. Should I let my people in Jackson know that they need to be in a storm shelter? I would say, Lady Lee there, Williams, you probably need to tell them they need to be paying attention. Maybe not directly at a storm shelter now. Make sure they have the app. I mean, if we have something real significant down there, we'll do our best to try to branch out and cover some of these today if necessary. But we do expect, again, some of that threat continues well into the overnight hours here. So Bruce is not in the danger zone. That's not true. I would say you're not in the highest danger zone. So as we look at the tornado threat for today, again, putting that back on, tornado threat, the one that's most concerning, most significant there. I have this on a loop. Notice how things change. This is a multi-hour loop here, but the midday update, you can see a shift southward on the positioning there. So I would say, Bruce, you know, that you're one of those spots I do want to talk about. I don't like to dig too deeply into what about this location or that location, because I think that devolves into every stop sign after a while. But Bruce, you're probably missing out on a significant or strong tornado threat here. It looks like our boundary is a little south of you. Tupelo, Shannon's still close-ish, but I'd say Tupelo, Shannon, this, with every passing hour, the storms aren't over us. That threat shifts southward. Fulton, Belmont, Russellville, same spots, same story there. Grenada, Greenwood, Indianola, and obviously Cleveland, Shelby were already a little north of this. What time are we at here? We don't have any, I think, updated observations. Let me double check. I want to see what the storm chasers are seeing. They're just kind of looking at some of the same stuff we are right now as well. So again, this graphic here, and I think we'll work our way toward wrapping things up a little bit. And before we do, I'm going to pop over to this. I think this is probably still valid here. Again, our overall severe weather threat, strong tornadoes are a possibility. Confidence continues to increase on where that's most likely. Central Mississippi and locations north of that we cover are the most likely spots. And yes, I know Tupelo is north of central Mississippi. We're thinking more the middle third of the state, and then just a little bit north and south of that is the most likely spot, and then still a possibility farther north, but that's, of course, where we're concentrating. Some damaging wind gusts a possibility. Where we get those strong rotating thunderstorms, 1.5-inch sized hail, possible out of the strongest of those, and then flash flooding for some spots, not impossible. But the tornado threat obviously is the main one that we are concentrating on here. So looking back through some of your questions, I see Brian Falls there mentioning that the Birmingham radar is down. Yeah, as of the last check, that was true, that the Birmingham radar is not operating at this time, unfortunately. So I think this is trying to check and see if it's going. Let's make this a loop for the last 1 hour. Yeah, so that makes it tricky. That means now we're going to have to rely more on, say, Huntsville and surrounding radars as opposed to directly there with the Birmingham radar. That makes a big difference, obviously, for folks out there, Lamar, Pickens County, Marion County, Alabama, and the locations east. We don't cover Tuscaloosa County officially. I'll tell you this, we got a big bad one on the ground. We'll probably stay on it as long as we don't have other issues, other spots. So anyway, let's go back over here to our overall severe weather risk for a moment. And think one thing that I think just a little bit wider there. This middle area here, get a good color. Let's see. Oh. This is all opportunity. This is the area where we're going to have multiple batches of rotating thunderstorms move through. That's why this is the peak zone we're concentrating on. High confidence, we're going to have rotating thunderstorms in multiple batches for a number of hours. That's where you're going to have the greatest opportunity to see all the different types of severe weather that are possible, including, unfortunately, the potential to possibly see tornadoes. So that's, again, that zone is specifically there because of the tornado threat. The opportunity is greatest there, but even strong tornadoes on the north side, a possibility for some spots, south side as well of that. But the tornado risk is the reason why that is there, and it's multiple rounds of those rotating thunderstorms. So we're still going to see some rotating storms up here, potentially as far north as Greenville, Tupelo, Aberdeen, Starkville, Yazoo City, yep. And then Kosciuszko, Louisville, Macon, Aliceville. As you watched us at all last night, you know that we were showing rotating storms right kind of in that zone there. Storm rotation tracks, Golden Triangle, please. Linda, I think that's a fair question. So let's go ahead and look at those. So, and this is that graphic. I think the way I want to show it. Yeah, let's go UH. UH for me behind the scenes, when I type that in, you've probably heard me say that the last couple days. That's updraft helicity, which is the technical name for the rotation tracks that we show. Okay. So this picks things up 130. This is our HRRR model. Hold on, that's not my favorite. Let's try it one more time. Yeah, there we are. I think this is the one I want. Well, at least I thought it had the background right. Okay. Time settings, 18 hours. We don't need all the way to 18, but that's fine. And let's get going. Okay, so this is where things supposedly stand at 1:30 an hour from now. Let's go and reset this and make it not an hour from now. Let's make it right now, where it expects things. Okay, first thing to note, already wrong, and all models are always wrong when we first see it. It has these rotation tracks up north, and before you go, hold up, Matt, you just said it's all these other places. Why? We're going to have some rotation, producing hail and other things potentially in some spots where we don't have it necessarily in other spots. I'm going to bring this back here so I can bring kind of our monitor shot here full screen so everything's a little bit bigger for you to hopefully be able to read there looking at on your device. Okay, so again, maybe rotation on some of these storms north. What I'm looking for is initiation of these storms south, 2 p.m. Looking for you, Montgomery County. And there's that one there, Golden Triangle. It did not go over the top on that rotation. That would be an excellent sign. It does look a little multi-cluster initially, and then it kind of breaks apart when it's there over top of the state line. Let's say this. While that's not an impressive rotation track, we're watching that specific area where that storm there goes, again, north of Kosciuszko, close to Winona, and Starkville there. I think the very fact that it exists in a spot where we're, I think, going to have enough fuel, I don't know that fully can break out and get as organized. It gets into Alabama, it gets a little stronger, but then obviously we have this one here. Hold on, are we on the latest on all these? Give me a moment. Latest. Okay. what's got me confuddled is I don't feel like, I think we're between model runs. I think we have a new model run coming in. I think that's what's kind of getting me, because I have some rotation tracks there where I don't have thunderstorms having occurred. But I think that might, let's use that to our advantage. Okay. So now notice here how one projection, I'm going to show the rotation tracks, I think, is either the newest model run coming out right now where the precip hasn't come in. So I think, again, the precip you're seeing there where we see the storms and the rotation tracks, those are two different model runs, I think. And I think the rotation tracks are the newest of the model run there. But you'll notice it is this area here: Kosciuszko, Louisville, Macon, Brooksville, Carrollton, Aliceville, Reform. This is the spot where we have pretty consistently Pickens, maybe back to Yazoo City. We very consistently, you can see last run of the model with rotating thunderstorms a little bit farther west, again, County West, pretty close. And then that stripe there of strong rotation going through Louisville, a sign that at least some of the projections, similar spots. Again, in that time frame there, this is showing between 5 p.m. and 7 p.m., which is a little earlier than we were looking at last night. But there are storms down here in these counties: Atala County, Montgomery County, Winston County, Noxubee County, Pickens County, Oktibbeha and Lowndes. We'll throw those in as well there, where we've consistently, going back to yesterday, had a strong rotation track. So there will be a storm there that rotates vigorously. Does it produce a tornado? That's the question. The storms that have produced some of these rotations a little farther north don't look as vigorous on the most recent model run coming in right now, which is what I think the rotation tracks are. But as we talk about opportunity and we talk about, the possibility of something occurring, notice how the rotation tracks and the strong rotation tracks are much more prevalent. The storms overall are much more prevalent farther south and continue to have, again, significant storms well after midnight. Okay, so let's address some of these like that we see up north here, right? There's one of those rotation tracks. And you're like, I thought you said south. To address this again, so the rotation just means the storm is spinning. It doesn't necessarily mean it's producing a tornado. And so we're going to have some spinning storms farther north, even potentially as late as midnight. But before we start thinking tornadoes on those aren't tapping into enough warm air near the surface. These would be hail-producing thunderstorms if they popped up like that, the ones farther north here. But specifically for US 82 corridor, south there, Macon, Sugarlock, as we really hone in on this and walk hour by hour through this, that initial storm, yes, we're watching that for you in Columbus. We have another batch here looking toward, again, 6 p.m. Additional storms strong with some rotation close to you as well. As you can see, another one there showing up 6 to 7, close to Louisville and Brooksville. Hopefully that's back in the cooler air by that point. And then the primary threat starts shifting a little bit to the south after that. Keep kind of advancing this here. Apologize, my computer here is running a little slow on its positioning. 8:30, 9 o'clock. Again, still could be hail producers here. I don't show as much rotation with those. The rotation a little stronger south by that point. But you can see at least limited threats there continue into the overnight hours. Is that my TV flashing? Okay. But yeah, I mean, the fact you also see this big line for long periods of time, that's where, again, flooding rainfall possible with that as well. Oh, look at that. There's my alarm. I don't know how to talk swiftly. I apologize for that. I speak quick. I just don't finish my points quickly. Okay. So hopefully that answered that question for you. Let's go ahead and switch back over to our conversation answer. Hopefully a few more here. Again, for some folks, asking specific locations, we've talked about this. You never mention Ackerman. Okay, I do. I just haven't as much today. So Ackerman, for example, you're awfully close on where a few of these have been there. Ackerman, French Camp, I think it's a little south, but you're right there on the edge. So yeah, I would say in Ackerman, you're still most definitely in that threat for today. That includes really all forms of severe weather. You are still in that opportunity zone there where there's the greatest risk for multiple rounds of rotating storms and possibly tornadoes to come from some of those. I could get an update on how conditions are out there, and I'll probably do that here in a minute, but I'm going to look through a few more questions here for a moment. So Prentiss County, Baldwin, the primary tornado threat is to your south. Amory, again, you're on the edge now. It would be the next few hours we'd be watching. Mabin, the next 4 or 5 hours when we're watching. Columbus and Starkville, this is going to go later into the late afternoon and evening for you. We'll probably not be too deep into the overnight hours. Starkville, as I mentioned, one of those spots. Tupelo, you're on the northern fringe of this threat that the opportunity is greatest to your south. I'd say it's rather unlikely we're talking strong tornadoes in Tupelo or Grenada or Greenville at this point. The strong tornado threat, obviously closer to the center of this opportunity zone that we're showing there where tornadoes are possible, and the opportunity coming down here to the number of reports. So when do I think storms will start up? Now, we already kind of have some of them started up and going now. Let's check out our kind of regional composite radar here for a moment. Actually, while I'm in there with that, let's go to our 12-hour surface map. I think should clear off, yeah, that clears off where it says opportunity. So this gets us a little bit going back into last night as we had the thunderstorms a little stronger. Again, close to the Tennessee state line. We did not have, as we talked about at 10 o'clock last night, the diminishing tornado threat. I'd always rather be too careful as opposed to not careful enough with overnight storms, luckily not materializing. So storms near this front are going to start generating the next couple of hours here with really, most things really starting to get going by, say, 3 o'clock with back out south of Greenville there, closer to the Golden Triangle there in that 2, 3, 4 o'clock time period when those kind of get going there for you. But on this wide shot here, and it's not going to, I think, let me show it. I'll have to go to a different one. Look at our measure moisture, our dew point kind of on the wider shot here. I think I have to hit X on this specific one. Dew point, let's clear that off. So this is the drier air, and it's right along this change in color here that we're watching. Our target zone for significant storms the next few hours here is right along that boundary there. Any storms that attach themselves to that boundary are going to rotate and try to produce tornadoes. They are possible that they could form down here farther south, but it's going to take enough heating. We're going to need enough sunshine and heating to get going a little bit stronger there as well. So this is not necessarily sure the next few hours here, but more storms will start developing there as we go throughout, because all this purple you see here, that's just a lot of fuel, a lot of moisture out there for storms to work off of at this time. Let's go back here. Let's look at visible satellite. Visible zoom here. Let's clear that off. What I'm looking for is I'm looking to see how much sunshine, if we have any sunshine, with this there. I do have some spots where it's breaking up a little bit. I bet I can probably see some of that out here in the Tupelo area. Our Mitchell Cunningham and Bowling camera in Tupelo showing up with, that kind of breaking up just a little bit as we look back toward the west. If I swung that around more kind of northeast, I'd probably see it, but we're also looking toward a tower there as well. I'm going to appreciate Mitchell Cunningham and Bowling for partnering with us here on Mississippi Live. Back out toward Oxford to kind of answer that question for you. You're 57 over 57. You could have some storms, Oxford, no tornadoes for you, or certainly no strong tornadoes today. Same thing, Batesville. Before we ever get started, I'd say we're pretty much all clear there. Ooh, Chris asking me when the Houston camera is going to be added to the list of cameras on the app. Shoot me an email about that tomorrow. I'll get that up to date there. I forgot that we've Boonville, Houston. I'll bet Pittsburgh. Man, I might not even have South Alcorn on there yet. So shoot me a message, Chris, tomorrow, and I'll get those updated on there as well. So the app will work for all counties, anywhere, everywhere. The question is, how deep into Alabama do we do our coverage? We traditionally at the TV station, we're keeping all the same spots we always did there at the TV station. So if you're out here in Franklin, Marion, Lamar, and Pickens County, we're going to cover it for you there in West Alabama with our live coverage like we always have. Depending on the situation, we might continue there into Fayette County. We might continue into Tuscaloosa County. We're probably not going a whole lot farther east than that. I know there's some other folks out there that cover that spot, but we've got a really big one, and we know that there's folks watching. We're probably not going to shut it down for folks that direction there. To that same point, here in Mississippi, with the addition of Mac South, you can watch us on Mac South Channel 1, Channel 1001, and Channel 7001. And we've added in a few counties down here to the south as well to kind of cover where they have established their networks. So locations, again, south of, I guess, our traditional coverage area here and even where we started. There's scenarios where perhaps as we're trying to see something gearing up in here, we might cover something back to Yazoo City or Madison, kind of the east side of Jackson. That's not impossible that we cover some of these spots here, but typically it's going to be these locations and north and eastward that are our primary coverage area, if that makes sense there. Hopefully that does make a little bit of sense. So give you a couple other spots here where, I think Water Valley, it's going to be difficult for us to get tornadoes for you. Same thing, Cleveland, Shelby, Clarksdale, Greenville. I want to check that camera again, but I think you're probably past. It takes something significant if this reporting station reads what I think I remember it reading last time around. I want to get the latest update though. Yeah, 57. You're not overcoming that. You're stabilized. We're not dealing with that for you. Winona, 64, kind of on that boundary there. Remains to be seen whether or not that boundary lifts a little farther northward. That's why you're in that so maybe range there in Winona. So I don't remember if we're pulling this reporting station directly from Winona. So it could be just close. Certainly, I would still say Winona. I have you in a zone where we could still have this active and severe weather today. Out from Mabin, again, coming in 79. And you can even see the clouds, a little bit more blobby sort of looking. Is that a word? They're cumulus clouds, a little more bubbly looking there as of, what time are we at here? We're at 1:08. We're going to need to shut this thing down here in a minute as we kind of prep and get things ready for the rest of the day. Houston, kind of on the north side of this here. I believe I pulled the Houston data from Tupelo, so you might actually be just a degree or two warmer as well. I see someone asking the question, where is it at? Beverly asking, will it drift northward? Great question. Maybe best possible question you could ask. Because that's the question that I'm also curious of as well. Let's look at this satellite loop here and see if we can kind of pick it out. Yes, I promise at some point I will pay attention to your phone. So you can see our outflow boundary on here. I don't know if it's instantly obvious. I'll use blue to show it. But see how there's kind of a change in the way the clouds look here? I'm going to wait until it loops again. And I can't really make it out back beyond that. Probably goes back that way based on what reporting stations have said, but I can't make it out. But in the cloud cover there, you can see how this is fuzzier, this is bubblier. This is the warmer air, this is the more stable, cool air there. And so north of this, it's going to be difficult to produce tornadoes. South of this, it's going to be more possible to produce tornadoes and potentially strong tornadoes. So that's kind of our cutoff there. So the last question was, what do we think? How is it going to drift? And so let's attempt to answer that question. We'll come in a little closer here to see if we can tell exactly where it is and see if it's parked. And I'm going to change our satellite over to, our high resolution visible here. I'm going to set this to 1 minute data, which might not do a lot for you at home, but for me is exactly what I need to look over the last, say, hour and see if we've seen a change in trajectory on this. There we go. Okay, so similar spot an hour ago and where it is. Looked a little bit farther north for a second. So again, that could be some of that cold air reinforcing it. It's possible maybe it nudges north. I have a hard time seeing that being the case on here. Let's go back and look at the radar site out of Columbus. And see, that still has it heading south. So even though I still have it bubbling back there, I still have that boundary a little farther south, there we are, than where I have it here. Looking at this, maybe our more reasonable is right here, coming off those storms. I don't know how significant the outflow is there, but somewhere between these two lines is where our front is. The rain-cooled air is still progressing southward some, so it has not stopped. The warm air from the Gulf has not stopped the progression of the cooler air from the north. So the cooler air is winning, and so that would then start eliminating more folks from that peak tornado threat. But in Smithville, Amory, we're still a chance there. The storms overhead are not going to do it. It's going to take something more substantial. Could these back southwest of Eupora eventually be what that substantial is? Yeah, that's a possibility there. Again, pretty close to that boundary. But probably, looking at that, extends maybe more back here like that, I think. Get rid of that. Let's pan it. Yeah, somewhere around there. So we're looking back here. Go back to the Jackson radar site. Jackson precipitation. I'll pat it for a second. And I'm going to turn on all of our data that we can and put that in play. Yeah, I would have it there. And I would also say I don't see a lot of progression on that there. Let's make this loop. Let's change that to a 3-hour loop here. I would say maybe there we can see it. So it still is probably progressing south a little bit. So again, that adjusted look there. It could be a little bit off. Okay, so then storms develop south of that. I think the boundary slows down enough that storms kind of develop along that and then just kind of work their way along the boundary there. So I don't know if any of that helps, but that's our thinking on this as well. Okay, someone mentioned they sent a picture from that line there in Smithville. I'll see if I can pull that up if we have that up here. It might make me log back in here. We'll hit gallery, 24 hours. It might make me log back in to try to get that back up and going. But that's one thing that you should do is if you have large hail, you can send in those pictures using the Mississippi Live Weather app. Let's see here. I'll pull up against maybe some of your pictures. You know, obviously today we'll try to show some pictures as necessary. Here's a shot of that line. This coming in a moment ago here from Tiffany there near Smithville. So it gives you an idea what this looks like in real life at this point in time. Now, how do I change that here? I can do it from home. I know exactly how to do it. I think we go, aha. So this is what that storm there in Smithville looks like. Again, low-hanging stuff. This still looks like an unstable situation where we have unstable air. Just because you have low-hanging clouds like this doesn't mean we're talking tornadoes. But this is still a storm kind of ingesting the more unstable air in that. So yeah, still kind of work in that direction there as well. Do I think Ethelsville, Alabama will get bad? I think it's a possibility it really could. So definitely going to watch that. But I think it's possible we could have some rotating thunderstorms for you and a lot of other spots as well. Okay, Starkville, are we likely to have rotation? Scale of 1 to 10, lots of us asking about Stark Vegas. I do anticipate that in Starkville there will be rotating thunderstorms for you and potentially could be ones that try to produce a tornado. I think that's definitely on the table for you later on this afternoon. So something to prepare for. But yeah, I do think in Starkville that we're going to have some issues there. Storms are already starting to go down here. Still have it on the line. Clear that. Let's kind of pan it. Back out toward Monroe, Louisiana, south of Monroe. How far away we're talking about here? Let's wait till the latest scans. So we're still talking, if this was the batch that eventually gets to Kosciuszko, we're about 138 miles. Let's check how fast these are moving. 1 hour there, get an idea from there, then, hold on, I need to see how fast. So it's moving about, let's say 30 miles per hour, somewhere around 30 miles per hour. So let's do a far too long track on this. Again, this is highly likely to be wrong on time, and there will probably be storms before this ever moves in. But let's just go 30 miles per hour would be really slow. I expect them to probably pick up a little pace from that. But if nothing else changed, how long would this be? Again, this is a far too early track. But you know, proof is what proof is on where it's at. Let's just go 200 miles, right? Way too far. And let's start with the first location being, change the size here for one. A little larger. There we go. That works fine. So again, that shows that getting a storm that's already formed there, closer to Kosciuszko, about 6 o'clock. Durant about 5:40. Canton about 4:40 or so. Pickens about 5:06. So a lot of time there. Yazoo City 4:21 for you. Ethel about 6 o'clock. French Camp, someone was asking about that, about 6:25. Knox Perry 6:45. Here's what you need to know. There will be more storms that develop ahead of this one thunderstorm, but if nothing else, if that's the only one that gets strong to severe, that would be some times. So that gives you kind of a latest arrival. I think it's going to be considerably earlier because I think some of these storms back toward Yazoo City, these are about to get going there and then track along that. Now, just because they get going doesn't mean they produce tornadoes, anything along those lines, but it certainly means that they're going to get going, have more rotation, and that's why I still think one of our most significant target zones here, I think SPC is good on where they've kind of positioned some of that for the spots here, and I think on the north side of this here for our area, these are the locations that I've just too consistently seen projections. Snooze. I've just too consistently seen projections down here produce a strong tornado to not take notice. So we're obviously watching for everybody. This is just a zone here that unfortunately looks pretty primed in a lot of different ways. So make sure you have multiple ways to find out if you're in the danger zone. Carthage, obviously, you're basically in that as well. So yeah, we'll be watching there very, very closely. And hopefully we don't have long track tornadoes, but unfortunately, strong tornadoes remain a possibility with this. And I think I'll leave it probably on that graphic. We're going to pray, and then I'm going to get all my stuff situated here behind the scenes. So again, that's our kind of, for where I've seen it. There are other spots I can make good arguments, so I probably need to clear that off. But this is our target zone for where we could see strong tornadoes. That's what this indicates here in red, our strong tornado risk. Okay, give me a second. If you don't watch us very often, I don't pray every day, but I do have a tendency to realize that I'm not the one in charge of all this. I'm just a steward of some information and a nerd that has a touchscreen TV. So I got to give credit to the one who is. Dear God, please protect us. Please protect these people today. Help them to make wise choices, to protect their families. Help them to find shelters as necessary in their area, and hopefully those shelters will be open. Help them to help there to be conversations that happen. Someone that might have a safe place, knows a friend that maybe lives in a manufactured home in this area, or is going to be someplace that's just not safe. God, open their hearts and press upon them to make that phone call to protect their friend. God, I know that you're in charge of all things, and that you will take care of us. And so I just pray that you give me a supernatural ability today to inform but not frighten, and guide these people through whatever is going to happen. Help these storms to be less severe. Help there to be more dry air than anticipated. Help the upper level winds to be more disorganized than anticipated. But where bad storms do happen, God, I pray that your protective hand is on those people, and that you will be with all of us today. Ask this in your son's holy name. Amen. Okay, we will at the latest be live coming up at 5 o'clock today, but we're probably going to be on one way or another. No matter what, we're going to have a cut in before that. I do anticipate, I have not looked here, and I don't know if Gabe has it open here, so I'm going to check. Give me a moment to check something here behind the scenes. We'll see about watches. We have about 1221, a mesoscale discussion, 60% chance of a tornado watch. Again, that's southern part of the state. Likelihood on that increasing. That was about an hour ago. They haven't put it out yet, which means about the time we shut this down, they will. Let's look at Memphis's area. Again, primary threat south. That's where they're at. I don't disagree with that as well. So no official watches at this time, but watches could be necessary a little later on. What do I see here real quick? Chad with the National Weather Service, Jackson. I'm not gonna be able to read this and talk about something else at the same time. So I'm gonna read it out loud, what he wrote, and process it like that. Sometimes I'm better processing verbally. Okay, we have our first warn on forecast run of the day. Below are images of surface-based CAPE, which is that instability of fuel that we show so often. First is 1 p.m., second is 5 p.m. Clearly shows location of the front, steady progression over the next 4 hours. Any severe thunderstorms will be along the front or across the warm sectors, east, southeast of the boundary. Additionally, this initial run shows storm development between 3 to 4 p.m. with a steady increase in coverage and intensity after 4 p.m. Okay, I can, I guess, show you the graphics conceivably that they have here. And again, just showing some of the spots where that fuel is the greatest. For some perspective, this is 1 p.m., so this would be pretty much right now, I believe it said. And so this is pretty close to where we're at with some of the most significant fuel down there, southern Monroe County through Lowndes County, stretching into Oktibbeha County back toward the south. This is that drier air. This is, of course, that fuel we were talking about. By 5 p.m., this particular projection has the majority of that there to where we're talking Winston, that's Noxubee County, so that's Louisville, that's Macon, that would be Columbus. By that point, this shows that that boundary is farther south. The concern is, actually, before we do this, I'm going to zoom this in a little bit more. We're going to get it. I promise we'll get there. Yeah, there we go. Is that what I'm looking at? Yeah, okay. So this would be on this particular projection, 5 p.m. So let's go ahead and illustrate specifically on this. My concern is that we are most likely to see our thunderstorms right along this gradient, this difference that you see there. I drew too clear of a, or too wide of a thing. But it's this big change you see there. That's where our front is. That is going to be a lifting mechanism, so storms are going to develop along that front and then move their way eastward along that front. So even though this shows the drier air moving in and starting to look better for Lowndes County, you're right on that boundary between 3, 4, 5 p.m. where those storms could be a little bit stronger there as well. Appreciate y'all there in the Northern District's Public Service Commissioner's Office for popping in there and all the hard work you do to give us information on days like today. So many folks from linemen to public officials that help us give us the information that we then we pass on to you. So takeaway on this is that this still clearly shows the zone, even on this one here, as I'm going to draw on Winston, Noxubee, Attala, and we'll say the panhandle there of Choctaw County, close to Ackerman, and then obviously south of those locations where we have plenty of fuel and that our projections have had that 1 or 2 storms following those same spots there. What also needs to be said on this is that everything up here is okay. By this time we're looking at, this is 5 p.m. So by 5 p.m., everything kind of back here in the white is okay, and we're good to go. You can't read that. Oh well, I wonder if I can make the brush a little bit bigger. Nope, that didn't work. Okay, we'll clear that off. So for most of us, for many of us, the threat arguably for some of us is already over. I'm going to bring it back over here to our main projection. And we'll close that. So if you're up here in Tupelo, Corinth, Batesville, we'll zoom this in just a little bit tighter, and I can do it on the monitor, but I'm not quite as precise as I'd like to be. Let's give it a try. That's not bad. So if you're up here in this sort of gray zone, we can largely say, as far as any strong tornadoes are concerned, we are no strong tornadoes. I don't know if you can read that. My handwriting's awful and it looks like the contrast is bad. But then once you get south of this, this is the area to watch it. Okay? So up north, no strong tornado threat at this point. Not impossible to get a rotating storm, maybe try to do something, but down here south, that's the area we're watching the most closely. I see someone there mentioning that they have clear skies there in Itawamba County. I'll check out our Mississippi Department of Transportation cameras out there in Fulton. At least in Fulton, maybe not. I'm betting the southern part of the county, we've got a bit more there. As we walk down our map, I'll stay on this side so I don't have to keep crossing over this. We're looking here towards Smithville. Again, still pretty cloudy there. That milder than some other locations. Go down toward Amory. Again, coming in 79, so more unstable air there. That looks more like a more reasonable number versus what we had. And then Ackerman, we'll pop down to Ackerman. And Ackerman, I do show more orange there, so clearly we're getting more sun. And that dew point fairly high. A lot of moisture out there for storms to tap into there. So for a lot of us, still it could be a very active afternoon still going forward today. So prepare accordingly. And we will keep you up to date with all the information that we can. Our next live broadcast, I'll go ahead and advance this here. I think it's going to send me over to the green screen over there. Our next live broadcast is going to be coming up here at 5 p.m. or earlier if necessary. Make sure, though, that you have the Mississippi Live Weather app. It's free and available for all of those different devices. Just kidding.
Looking for a place to finally call home? At Tupelo.
Programming. It'll just move on to the next thing, right? Have everything coded so it does something. Before we wrap up, I just want to say, make sure to download our apps on all the different platforms there. I know that there's so many of you that watch us on YouTube and Facebook, and that is great. Just understand that social media, sometimes it's hard to dig. If you have the app, it's the easiest way. And I know you can't comment in the app. And there are a few things about the app that drive me a little more crazy than that. At some point, we will have something in there. We're not there yet, and I don't know when that's going to happen, but I know there's got to be a way to do it. And I'm sure there's a computer programmer out there right now. It's like, I know exactly what. Email me tomorrow about that, and then we'll worry about trying to get that in there. Find us on Roku, Apple TV, Fire Stick, so that you can watch us on those platforms. Keep your phone charged. Stay prepared. We don't want anyone to be scared, but obviously we need to be thinking ahead on what is possible. And so unfortunately, severe weather possible today. So keep you here for the latest. Maggie, myself, and the entire North Mississippi Storm Chase team going to be out there watching and tracking the latest. So keep it with Mississippi Live, and we'll keep you advised.
Looking for a place to finally call home? At Tupelo Home Center, we make it easy. From finding the perfect